So we're talking about transformations again. This time we're talking about congruence statements. So when it comes to congruent statements, it's really straightforward. We need to understand congruence first, and it is two shapes that are the same shape and the same size. They are congruent shapes. Any of the transformations we've talked about in the past won't change the fact that they're congruent. So if I were to grab one and I were to move it around, it would still be a congruent shape. Just because it's been translated up or down or left or right doesn't mean that the shape changes. I could rotate the shape. Here I've rotated it 90 degrees. It's still the same shape, even though I had to redraw it, so like they don't look quite the same. But trust me, they're the same shape. All I did was rotate it. Of course, reflecting it in some line will also mean that they are congruent shapes. They're the same shape, the same size, just one's reflected over the other one. Again, excuse my poor drawing here. So we can say that these are congruent, and we use these three lines to say that these two objects are congruent. It's like an equal sign with an extra line under it. You also use an equal sign with a little wavy line on the top. I like that one. Alright, so we can make what's called a congruent statement when it comes to these two here. And the way to do it is to match up, well, let's call this first object A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D. And we can say that A, B, C, D is congruent to three lines. And then we just need to make sure that we do the first letter first. Okay, so the A matches up with H, so H. The B matches up with G, so G. The C matches up with F. And that means that the D matches up with E. Okay, so you can see I've just made sure that I've put the letters here with their matching letters here. So we say that shape ABCD is congruent to HGFE. The question you might get asked would be something like this. We have two objects here, A, B, C, D, and we have, well whatever that is, K, J, M, L. Different orders, but we'll fix up the order in a second. Alright, so the first thing you might get asked is identify the transformations that place the first figure, this figure, onto the second. Alright, so to get this figure onto this figure, I've definitely got to reflect it over a line. But if I reflect it over the line, it's going to end up being up here somewhere. So then the other thing I need to do is a translation as well. A reflection in a vertical line, then translation. So those are the two transformations that we need to do here. Okay, the next thing that we need to do is pair vertices. So which ones match up with which ones? B is this pointy one that's sort of off here. That matches up with K. A matches up with J. D matches up with M. And C matches up with L. And we can show that just by doing something like this. B matches up with K, C matches up with L. Alright, pair the corresponding side lengths. Now, in order to talk about side lengths, you just call like this one, side AD. Alright, so we call this side here AD. And that means that it matches up, and we need to do it in the right order. AD matches up with JM. And you can do that whole thing around the object. So, pairing the corresponding side lengths, we get, where's my AD? Well, they did DA, but that's the same deal. So they did DA pairs with MJ. Notice, our orders are different, but it doesn't matter which order you do those in. And they match the other three as well. Alright, the next one's a bit tedious. Pair the corresponding angles. So, for instance, angle DAB is this angle here, and we can match angle DAB with angle MJK. These two match up. And of course there are four corresponding angles that we can match up. Let's see where they are. Alright, so I just did DAB and there's MJK, and you can see that there are three others as well, all hiding down here. Finally, we can write a congruent statement, and that congruent statement is, we've got to do it in the right order. I'm going to call this one ABCD, and then congruent, 2, I started with A, so I better start with J. B corresponds with K. C corresponds with L. And D corresponds with M. So I've got ABCD is congruent to JKLM. ABCD is congruent to JKLM. Alright, that is transformations and congruence statements.